acting Deputy President. It has been almost 10 years since much-loved 15-year-old Eden Westbrook was found hanging in a park in St Helens, Tasmania. 10 years since the police told her family that she had taken her own life. 10 long years for the Westbrook family, fighting through their grief to search for answers. The police said it was suicide, but the evidence that Edie was murdered just keeps stacking up. As I stated in my speeches in July and November last year, this whole case stinks to high heaven of incompetence. The ongoing failure to provide the autopsy photos to Amanda and her husband Jason Westbrook so that we can have them independently scrutinised is frankly shocking. What are they trying to hide? Especially in the light of evidence from Edie's sisters who applied makeup to Eden before she was cremated, that she had facial bruising and shattered teeth. Evidence which flies in the face of the comments by the Chief Magistrate in 2022 of Tasmania. There were no signs of trauma to Eden, according to her. Jesus. Then there were the inquiries by the Bridgewater Police some months after Eden's death, with a key witness, Kim Woodcock, as to whether she noticed marks on Eden's wrists. It was apparently suggested that Eden's hands may have been tied behind her back, but behind her back makes that very difficult to hang yourself. Then there is what appears at this stage to be the complete failure to secure and preserve the evidence. Never seen anything like it in my time. I'm talking about the rope that Eden supposedly used. In any case like this, the body and the rope are the two most crucial pieces of evidence. Repeated requests to the Tasmanian Police and the Police Minister have failed miserably to provide any information about the location and the status of the rope. The right to information, forensic documents, suggests that police quickly decided that Eden's death was a suicide, nothing to see here, because she had rope fibres in her hands. Seriously. Go and do your investigations properly. And because Amanda Westbrook said that the rope was from a cray pot at their home, except that Amanda says she never said this, and it's not in the statements, although she may have commented that it was similar colour to the ropes at their place. And couldn't rope fibres in Eden's hands also be indication of struggle and murder? The police never followed up on this issue of the rope with the Westbrooks, nor did they distill the evidence. You didn't go across the road to the wharf where all that rope is. You never even crossed that road. You didn't do your evidence properly. Her mum and dad, until 12 days after their daughter, it appears they didn't check the nearby wharves, like I've said, which was straight across the ropes everywhere. Eden's case, the death of a child, a young and intelligent woman, in what should have been a highly suspicious circumstances, involves an unbelievably flawed police investigation like nothing I have ever come across in my life, and poor use of intelligence. Multiple forensic failures, including unaccredited forensic services, inadequate investigative reviews, including a review by a St Helens police officer following a formal written referral from the Commission of Inquiry into Sexual Abuse in early 2023 after a whistleblower nominated a person of interest and an action suspect in Eden's death. And no written statements were taken from that person either. And the Tasmanian Coroners Act 1995 is simply not fit for purpose. It's not even possible for our Attorney General, the first law officer in Tasmania, to intervene in extraordinary circumstances like this and to direct an inquest into this case. We're the only state that does this, by the way. We're bloody miles behind. A compromised and corrupted coronial system with a dishonest pedophile cop involved who was a coroner's associate and who had regular direction and oversight of the matter. For Australians who may not have been following Eden's story, please go and listen to our Little Edie podcast. The podcast has now 5 million viewers, and I'm sure after tonight it's going to get a lot more. Reynolds was a pedophile policeman who was groomed and abused children across Tasmania for over 30 years. He was in your uniform, Tasmanian police, and you had your eyes closed for 30 years. And you want me to trust you've done this properly? Oh, you can't be serious. And despite the damning evidence of criminal behaviour, Reynolds was given an official state funeral only in the last few years with all the trimmings, including a glowing eulogy from the then police commissioner. What an absolute shocker. And in 2023, the Tasmanian government commissioned the Wise report, but despite detailed submissions from the Westbrooks and their former lawyer, and the matter clearly falling within the terms of reference, Eden's case and family concerns about Reynolds, official role were not even mentioned in the final report. It absolutely blows me away. It's like, you don't want to deal with this down here, we'll deal with it because I'm here. I'm dealing with it. And I want to know if any of the 7 current or former Tasmanian police officers referred by the Wise Review for investigation concerning child sex abuse or grooming ever worked in that St Helens area. I want to know. Surely you can answer that by breakfast. I want to know if someone has been allowed to get away with murder. The recent decision of Coroner Robert Webster in the Helen Bird case, where in Tasmania, where it was found without an inquest that Helen died of asphyxia due to hanging. This is the same coroner that made the decision about Eden's case. Incompetency. But further pressure brought by Helen Bird's family has found that, in fact, Helen was murdered. That's right, and her death was staged to make it look like suicide. Helen Bird's case had the same forensic officers as Eden, who failed to take any measurements of the rope or the ladder from the Bird case, samples from the rope for DNA testing or fingerprints. That's where we're at. This is a botched investigation at the very least. The police had clearly decided from the start that Eden had hung herself. Nothing else to see. That was it. End of story. You didn't even look to see if it was murder. You'd made your mind up. She's hung herself. That's it. Everything else is off the table. They didn't interview critical witnesses and persons of interest. They didn't ask for Eden's mobile phone or check her social media accounts to understand her state of mind or to check whether or not she was being groomed or abused. In reference to the ongoing saga surrounding autopsy photos, there is now the critical issue of the rope, the missing rope. In the absence of the coronial file and relevant statement, not much is publicly known about the rope in Eden's case. You didn't bag and tag it, and you didn't take forensics. That we know. You failed. I've written to the Chief Magistrate asking for access to this critical documentation. Police must be out there absolutely going around in circles about this rope, because this is it. The rope has to be there somewhere. It is also not mentioned in any detail the Chief Magistrate's decision not to reopen the investigation in 2022. In fact, it is stated that there is no available evidence to the origin of the rope. That rope's got to be there. It's got to be there. The emphasis is on the available evidence, which makes me think that the rope had not been secured by the coroner's associate, Paul Reynolds, or investigating police as an exhibit. You failed to pick up an exhibit, the most important exhibit in the case, and you failed to bag and tag it. You failed. The rope is simply said to have been green and either 10 or 12 millimetres in diameter. Bag and tag. You didn't do it. The RTI information reveals the rope was not secured by police as an exhibit. The only exhibit recorded was a set of 10 fingerprints from Eden. Amanda Westbrook denies that she advised police on the 18th February 2015 at the scene that the source of the rope was a crate pot rope from their home. The right to information documents that my office has received does not show any corroborating documentary evidence that Amanda Westbrook said that, and if she did say that, you didn't take the samples of the rope from the Westbrooks either. You failed to even go and do your job at the Westbrooks. You failed to try and match the rope. You failed miserably in this investigation. This is really bad. Eden's younger sister, Sky, and her brother, Dante, are speaking at a gathering for Eden on the lawns of Parliament House in Hobart. Sky is in her 3rd year of law at UTAS. She's taken law to fight for her sister, and you go, girl. And should be, it's concentrating on her studies instead. She, like her parents and siblings, are still fighting for truth and justice for poor little Edie. Imagine that your own sister has gone back to do a law degree to say, I don't believe this, and if I don't do it, she'll do it herself. That's where she is. This is the ambitious side of this family, that one of their kids has gone to study law in a 3rd year, smashing it like you wouldn't believe, and this is where we're at. We're all coming for you. We're all gung-ho. I've got her back, and I will not stop until the family has answers. The Attorney-General in Tasmania, I want to have a talk to you, Guy Barnett, because you promised me before Christmas time that you would change the law. You would make changes in the first sitting weeks, that is in March, in Tasmania to change this law so we can get those autopsy photos. I want to make sure Tasmanians understand that that is a promise that I was given from the Attorney-General, and so were the Westbrooks, the family. So I want to see that legislation going through in March. I want to see those autopsy photos. And like I've said to the Police Commissioner, I've said it out loud very clearly. If I'm wrong in this case, I'll apologise. By the way, she hasn't said the same thing back. But I would expect if I'm right, she will resign effective immediately, and her counterparts. We have a problem with policing in Tasmania. All right, it's not much difference to the military, to be honest, when it comes to that. Because I can assure you, the leadership in there has a lot left to answer for. Not just 10 years ago, but today. You might want to go and speak to your own cops out there, because they're not really impressed with you. Because I can assure you there's plenty of them thanking me for what I'm doing, because they're not happy with the leadership there.
You are on very, very thin line here, and I intend to prove what I've always been out to prove, that young Edie was actually murdered. She did not hang herself.